Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be dialing in from around the world. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Sizing Up Your Roadmap Against an Evolving Landscape. I'm Michaela Bernier, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Before we begin, I just want to cover a few quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to view the recording on demand will be available after the session. Please feel free to submit your questions using the questions feature located in the GoToWebinar toolbar to the right of your screen, and we'll try to address them at the end of the session. I'll now turn the mic over to Erica Baumann to introduce herself and jump into the content. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's webinar.
Thank you, Michaela, and thank you everyone for joining. I'm really excited to have some members of my team here to talk with you about some of the trends that are most important for financial institutions to consider right now. But for those of you that might not know ANG really well, I just wanted to talk just a minute about the team. So I'm the director of the Commercial Banking and Payments team. My expertise is in all things payments, looking at payment automation tools, adoption, real-time payments, payment hubs, cross-border payments, everything in this payments world. We do have a global team that covers basically everything you can think of in the commercial banking space, from trade finance to ESG, healthcare payments, lending, small business payments, commercial card, voice of the customer. Basically, if you have any questions or thoughts or needs in the commercial banking and payment space, there's one of us that likely has some insight or data. We can't fit everything into reports, just like we can't fit everything into a webinar. So just wanted to make you aware that the scope of what we cover and who we are goes well beyond just some of the information you see here today. I'm joined today by Paul Kazarian and Giles Eubags. You're going to hear from them as well. So you're getting a good representation of some of the coverage and some of the most important things to consider as you're looking at your roadmap and considering what your customers need. So I want to start the content by just setting the stage for why this is important and what we're seeing in the industry. I know that at this point, every time someone hears the pandemic, they want to cover their ears and not hear about it anymore. But the fact is, technology really accelerated during the pandemic, and it created this environment that your end customers demand change and demand more. Of course, this process was happening all along. This just made things fast forward. Generally, the sentiment is it fast forwarded about 36 months. So you had users that now realize, hey, I need to make things easier. I need capabilities that previously were not thought of in my realm. So a lot of small businesses looking at more ways to automate, getting away from manual processes, and everyone suddenly became very comfortable with technology. So even the contingency of the population that said, yeah, this technology really isn't for me, they had to adapt, right? Just like all of us adapted to a virtual world. A lot of times workforces had to become remote when they weren't equipped to become remote. They suddenly had to figure that out. And what they consider as part of the services that they do with their financial institution and essential to their relationship with their financial institution has expanded. They need all of this with tighter integration into their back-end processes. There's some good news and some bad news that wraps into this. So the good news is this willingness to adopt, this need to adopt, this thirst for technology and automation and to make things better. That's a great scenario. The flip side to that is, how do you keep up fast enough, and how do you prioritize? And then when you do go to market, how do you get that ROI that you would be expecting, right? And we have these two dynamics colliding between a lot of change and desire on this volatility piece, and then some market expansion. What's really fun about this dynamic is that, one, there's a ton of new opportunity, right? So regardless of where you are today with your offerings, regardless of the size of your financial institution or the size of your budget or what you have on the roadmap, there's opportunity. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the conversations of who is taking your business. And we'll talk about this in a little while. A lot of times it's the fintechs. This volatility, sometimes I think people think volatility is a negative word. It can if you're on the wrong side of the volatility. But there's this openness to new partners, to new relationships. The volatility in this case can really have a lot of benefits for financial institutions who are looking to capture on this market expansion.